Yes. Am I audible? Yes. Very good. Video not visible. Yes. Now video is visible. Right. Okay. Great. Okay. So yesterday we started discussing about the Indian geography. So we were discussing about the geological features of India, the physiological features of India. We also tried to understand the geological formation of the Indian plate. Yesterday basically I didn't have my updated slides. The slides that I was using was almost a year old. Lot of changes were to be incorporated there, and those slides weren't available. So I will be commencing with the geological formation of India, which I couldn't do it yesterday with justice. So we'll quickly look into that, right? So geological history of India. I've anyway started physiography of India. Yesterday we've discussed about the northern mountains, right? So we will quickly go back to geological history of India, and then resume our discussion on the physical features of India. So yesterday I didn't have this image, so I couldn't explain you much. So as you already understand, during the mid Mesozoic period, the whole landmass was one single landmass, which was called as Pangaea, and the ocean was called the Panthalassa. So later on, after the during the mid Mesozoic period, the Precambrian period, the Pangaea was formed. Mid Mesozoic period, there was a breaking up of the Pangaea. So the Pangaea broke up into Laurasia and Gondwana. We have already discussed this while talking about plate tectonic movements. So India, India was part of the Gondwana land. So we already understand that South America, Africa, India, and Antarctica and Australia were all one single landmass, right? So when the Laurasian plate was formed, over a period of time, even the Gondwana land got broke up. India got separated from Africa, Antarctica, and Australia, and that's how the Indian plate was formed. Even today, India and Australia are on the same plate, which is called the Indo-Australian plate, right? So this particular Indian plate and the Australian plate started moving away from each other. That is how you will notice Indian plate are approaching the Laurasian plate, and this breaking up happened in the Precambrian era. India, which was part of a Gondwana land, separated from the Gondwana, and that's how the Indian plate was formed. So before this, right, Indian plate was again not one single uniform plate. Please understand, the Indian plate consists of three important plates, that is the Aravali plate, the Singhbum plate, and the Dharwad plate, right? So prior to the Precambrian era, during the Precambrian era, what happened? So while India got separated, it didn't get separated as one single plate. There were three different plates. So this peninsular plate, that is the place that we are all living in, the Dharwad plateau, right? This Dharwad plate is one of the oldest crust that has been formed in the world, right? It's also oldest block of India. So I've already told you, when the oceanic plate gets subducted, when the basaltic rock through the when it goes into the interior of the earth, transforms itself into metamorphic rock, andesitic rock, and andesitic eruption takes place, which forms the continental crust. So one of the initial crusts that were formed on the earth is the Dharwad plate. So the Dharwad plate is one of the initial continental plate that was formed, the oldest crust block of India. So this Dharwad plate collided with the Singhbum plate and the Aravali plate. So you can notice, so there was basically convergence of the two plates, continental plates, the Aravali, the Singhbum, and the Dharwad. So this was how the collision took place. So what do you see here? So whatever mountain ranges that you see here, the Aravali range, right, the Vindhya Satpura range, they're all result of this collision that took place. So the Aravali ranges were also one of the oldest fold mountains. I've already told you, once upon a time, Aravalis were probably taller than Himalayas. So the Aravali mountains is a result of collision between the Aravali plate, the Singhbum plate, and the Dharwad plate. Okay, so there was collision between these three land masses which formed the Indian bloc, and it was this Indian bloc that proceeded its journey towards Laurasia. Now, what also happened was, you can see this particular region. They were, the mountains that emerged here. We will be discussing about these mountain ranges as well. So you will find the Vindhya range and the Satpura range in this particular region. So these Vindhyas and Satpuras were fold mountains similar to Himalayas, so which were formed during this particular region. So Aravalis were again mountain ranges that were formed when these continental plates got subducted. Post the formation of Aravalis, you also find the Vindhya Satpura range, right? There are many other mountain ranges in this region. This itself is Chhattisgarh plateau today, right? So all this plateau formation, the Vindhya Satpura range, were built because of this kind of a folding movement that took place. So you already understand, folding movement is nothing but when two continental plates meet each other, the upward surge that happens with the continental landmass, the breaking up of the continental plate, and rising of these continental debris is what we call as the folding. So such folding movement took place. So after some time, so what was active as a converging plate boundary got active as a diverging plate boundary. Then there was a faulting that took place. So this Vindhya ranges, which were fold mountains, they kind of got broke into two parts because of the same what do I say, the convergent plate boundary all of a sudden got transformed into divergent plate boundary, and these plates started moving away from each other. So there was a faulting that took place. It is in these faults, this was basically a joint between the two continents. The same thing kind of drifted apart and made a narrow gap. So it is in this gap that you find these rivers flowing today: the Narmada River, the Son River, and the Godavari River. So that's why we've named these joints on these particular rivers. The joints are called the lineaments. We also use the word lineament. So there are three lineaments: Narmada lineament, Son lineament, and Godavari lineament. So today what you find is, the Dharwad plateau, the Singhbum plateau, and the Aravali range or the Aravali plateau, right? These are the three plateaus that have today formed the original Indian plate. So it was this Indian plate that then proceeded its journey. So can you see, there is Vindhya mountains here, there is Satpura range here. These two drifted apart, and that's how you have the Narmada River that is flowing here, right? So the important ranges that you can find here are Aravali range, Vindhya range, Satpura range. Even the Eastern Ghats are a result of this. They're also fold mountains. The Bijawal range, in the Chota Nagpur region, they're all mountains that originated because of the folding and faulting that have taken place, right? So we also notice that whenever two plates meet, right, before the two continental plates meet, there will be an oceanic plate in between. So what happens to that oceanic plate, or before the two plates meet? So there will be deposits, river deposits, sediments that fall in this particular ocean, which is what we call as geosyncline. So what is geosyncline? So when these two land masses were separate, there would be an oceanic plain which would receive lot of sediments both from the river, and it will also have sediments of the ocean. So when an ocean becomes a valley kind of a structure between two land masses, it is called geosyncline. So wherever you find two continental masses, continental plates colliding with each other, if there was an ocean in between, and if that ocean is also uplifted in the form of the fold mountains, after the ocean floor is consumed, the remaining ocean floor which forms the geosyncline gets uplifted. So you will see such upliftment, such marine deposits, or the sediments of which shows the origin of the marine nature in the rocks, which are available in these mountains, the Aravali mountains, the Vindhya mountains, Satpura mountains, the Eastern Ghats, and the Bijaval mountains, right? So this is one of the important feature that I could not explain yesterday. I could have introduced this topic, but without pictures, it would have been difficult for you to understand and comprehend it. So that's how I didn't introduce. I proceeded directly with the collision of the Indian plate. But please note, before Indian plate collided, the Indian landmass itself is made of three plates: the Aravali plate, the Singhbum plate, and the Deccan Plateau. So I believe this part is pretty well understood. So what also happened later is this Singhbum plate itself has got two diverging, there were two diverging plate boundaries that became activated in this particular region in the Singhbum plate. So the Singhbum plate broke into four parts: one, two, three parts basically, right? There were two places where the rifting took place, as in the land there was a landslide, right? So this complete rifting of these land masses has again caused a narrow pathway. So this is where you today find the Damodar River and the Mahanadi River flowing here, right? So there was the fault line in the Singhbum Plateau got activated. So there was rifting, that is, there was a gap between these two land masses that was created. That it is in this gap that today Damodar and Mahanadi rivers are flowing. So what happens? Understand. So this kind of a rifting would have taken place in Gondwana times, right? It is in the Gondwana times that this rifting took place. So when two land masses are rifting, right, there would be so much of land, the continental plate that gets subducted, that goes deep inside the earth, right? Similar thing did happen. So what happened is there was a lot of forest area in this particular region. When the continental crust opened up, this forest area got submerged into the interior of the earth. Because of the temperature and pressure, the same forest has now become the cold fields. So you all know this particular region is known for both minerals and coal. Why minerals are available? This is a Singhbum plateau. What is a plateau? The interior rocks, this was a fold mountain which had got uplifted. Now it has been eroded. So you all know, in mountains or any rocks that are formed, there will be minerals that are available. So while folding took place, all these minerals have been uplifted, and because of the erosion, now you can extract the minerals very easily from a plateau, any plateau. We've already seen, right, while discussing about Africa, I spoke of Katanga Plateau, where gold is available, diamond is available. Most of the times, plateaus are regions where minerals are easily available, easily accessible. So similarly, you can see here, this is the one of the rare places in the world where you will find both iron ore and coal available in the same place. Now, if you look at South India, even here, Deccan Plateau, we have a lot of iron fields, right? Karnataka itself has Kemangundi, Kudremukha, right? They're all great iron fields, but we don't have coal fields because no such subduction of the earth has taken place. It is only in this particular region. So you have the Singhbum Plateau, where the minerals, any plateau, as I've already mentioned, is an uplifted area. So minerals will be easily accessible once the top surface is eroded. So that is how Chotanagpur region has access to minerals, as well as because of this rifting that took place between in this particular region, there was subduction of the forests, and that is how you will find coal fields as well. So I believe this process is completely understood. All this happened even before India could collide with the Asian plate. Is that understood? Right? Very, very important. These are not explained in any of the books, right? So whenever I'm giving you information where you don't find explanation of such sort in books, you need to pay a lot attention. I always recommend people to attend live classes because of this reason. Okay, anyways, so this I had already mentioned, saying when Indian plate collided with the Asian plate, there were two breaks that took place. There was there was a landmass out here, which kind of, our coastal area. Where was our coastal area? Our coastal area was extending till wherever you see this black dot lines, right? See, the black dotted line was our actual coastal area. But when the Indian plate collided with the Asian plate, again there was a faulting that took place. So this coastal area got submerged into the sea, and that is how this new coastal area emerged. In Karnataka, we have the story Vishwamitra Kshetra anta kariತೀವಿ ಇದನ್ನ. In our ancient religious belief, it is that this coastal area of the west was created by Vishwamitra. As in, what you can probably understand is, you can assume that the ancient religious texts wanted to talk about how this geological formation has occurred, but instead of explaining it, it basically left it open, saying this is certainly a new formation and not the old. This coastal area is a new phenomena. It happened during the Gondwana times. Prior to that, our coastal area was much wider. So all of you, sometimes when you listen to Mahabharata stories, you will find people saying Dwaraka as a city got submerged. Krishnaniddanta Dwarake ivattu ಮುಳುಗು ಹೋಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. So if you can look at this Gujarat region, so Gujarat region, there is a good amount of coastal plain that has got submerged. So if you excavate today in the ocean, the depths of the ocean, there are traces of cities that have been found. So whenever there is this conflict between, is Mahabharata a true story or is it a fictional story, you are finding a lot of evidences. Similarly, even Ramayana, you find this Adam's bridge. I don't know where the Ram's bridge was, how Christians named it as Adam's bridge, but again you will find a lot of geological features that support our ancient stories. Or similarly, we must use these ancient stories to at least understand the geography part, right? So similarly, this coastal region got subducted, and this is how the new coast that was formed. So what happened when the Indian plate collided with the Asian plate, right? There was one, so you notice that it first collided from the north side and then took a syntaxial bend. The northeast region got collided. So when this movement was happening, first of all, when the northern portion, this portion got collided with the Asian plate, this breaking took place. But when the syntaxial bend happened, and when the northeastern side also collided with the Asian plate, that's when this broke apart and kind of got subducted, right? So there were two, imagine how how such movement would have taken place, right? So it did not happen all of a sudden, but subduction and things like that have happened certainly all of a sudden. But the rest kind of features, it would have taken so much of time, so much of intense pressure to build for such faulting to take place. So one faulting took place here, another faulting has also taken place here, right? There was also some amount of land that got subducted here. So today this is known as the Malda fault, right? So this it is in this region Ganga, Brahmaputra started depositing sediments. So once upon a time, if you look at it, Northeast India and the Deccan Plateau was one piece of land, right? After connected to the Singhbum Plateau, so Deccan Plateau, Singhbum Plateau and the Northeast India was one single landmass. So in this particular region, again there was a fault line. So there was subduction here as well. And today the Ganga, Brahmaputra have started depositing, and that's how this land area has been formed, right? So this gap is called the Malda fault. Okay, anyways, so the faulting along the western edge took place, and that's how the peninsular plateau got the coastal area. So can you see here? So this Indian landmass now starts northward journey. This was about 15 million years ago. India broke from Madagascar. So if you look at our the actual coastal area is not matching with the Madagascar region, because our west coast also has got subducted. So that's how you cannot see. So when India was passing through this region, I've already told you there were Reunion Islands. So in this particular region, there was volcanic activity. That is how lava deposits came in, and that is how the Deccan traps basically came in. I've already explained this part when I was explaining geomorphology, right? So India moved, when it was moving from the Reunion Islands, volcanism took place. The volcanic activity kind of deposited lava. So it is that lava plateau which after erosion today exists as Deccan Plateau. So this movement also narrowed down the Tethys Sea. Tethys Sea, when it got submerged, I've already told you, when the oceanic plate of the Tethys Sea got subducted, it formed the Karakoram range. So we've already discussed the Karakoram range in the Trans-Himalayan region yesterday. So this is how the faulting has taken place. So Indian plate, when it collided with the ancient plate, can you see the extra coastal area, almost light white color? So it is this coastal area that got subducted after the collision of the Indian plate with the Asian plate. So and that's how today you will find Himalayas. This region is now subducted. The new coast is visible. So Indian plate, if you go into the coast, so it is in this particular region that we are able to find oil fields. Again, I was talking about this, Aravali region, right? So this Aravali region, I told you, there is fold mountains. There is also, upliftment of the geosyncline, right? I spoke about this. So whenever there is an upliftment of geosyncline, that is again ocean, ocean formation is pretty visible there. So the remnants of an ocean is visible wherever there is traces of geosyncline. If you look at it, Rajasthan has petroleum oil fields. How many of you are aware of it? You can Google Shell company. The Shell Petroleum Company is extracting petroleum in Rajasthan. So how is petroleum found in Rajasthan? You all know how petroleum is formed. So only when the marine deposits, go deep into the earth due to pressure and temperature, they convert themselves into petroleum oil, right? So petroleum is always found in the ocean. Now you are finding it in Godavari basin. You are even finding it in Rajasthan region. At least Rajasthan, unimaginable, isn't it? So that is possible because once upon a time there was oceans. So you still find the petroleum deposits underneath this particular landmass. That is how Shell company is extracting petrol in Rajasthan. Okay. So this is why proper understanding of geography is very much essential. So I always have this, I don't know how many of you heard of this saying. It has its references in one of the interpretations written on Bhagavad Gita. So it says, Ekam cha tatvato gnatum tasmat sarvatra jignaset. So that is, Ekam cha tatvato gnatum. If you want to know anything completely and comprehensively, tasmat sarvatra jignaset. So you should be aware of everything that connects to it. So if you want to understand anything about India, if you simply understand the Indian map, it doesn't help. You need to know the science behind it. You need to know the various geographical activities that have taken place. So if you have partial understanding of geography, like you have already done it in school, that will not help you in competitive exams simply because of this. If you want to learn anything completely and comprehensively, then you must be aware of everything about every subject, right? So you can never master one subject without being aware of all other subjects that are around, right? Anyways, so being engineers, if you want to do construction, you will do soil testing, you will do various other things that are connected to your subject. If you have an understanding of geography, now your complete approach, the way you look at the landmass itself will change, right? So that is the kind of approach that competitive exams intend to give. Anyways, right? So the faulting basically took place. That is how the western edge got subducted, and that's how the new coastal area was formed. So this journey continued. Now the Deccan traps were formed, the Himalayas were formed. The formation of the Himalayas started in the tertiary time. So after the collision between the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate, the Himalayas started building. So when I said this part got subducted, so as I was specifying, when the Indian plate, see, this plate first hit the northern side, the Jammu Kashmir region first hit the Asian plate, then took a syntaxial bend, and the northeastern region, this particular region, hit the Asian plate. So when this movement happened, so the coastal plate that got not just subducted, but there was a slight rise. The western portion kind of got uplifted. It is this kind of a rise that makes us, appear Western Ghats as big mountains. So I've already told you Western Ghats are not true mountains. They're called block mountains. What are block mountains? Which appear to like mountains, but they are not mountains that have been, created because of the folding. So only fold mountains are considered as true mountains. These are the block mountains. So I am here showing that, the Western block kind of got uplifted, and that is how the Western Ghats were formed. So there was a jerk activation of the crack created at the western margin of the peninsula. So there was a jerk, there was a crack. So this crack resulted in the breaking of the western part. Some part of the peninsula subsided, the peninsula region raised. So the western portion, the west, it tilted on the west-east direction. West-east direction is this. So it kind of got tilted, and that is how Western Ghat today appears to be a horst. That horst is a uplifted region in a block mountain. So Western Ghat kind of got uplifted because of this, cracking of the coastal plain, right? So then yesterday we have seen how Himalayas were formed. So I've told you Himalayas itself has been, there are 3 layers of Himalayas. So Great Himalayas was formed in Eocene period. Mid Himalayas are formed in Miocene period. Outer Himalayas or Shivaliks are now formed in Pleistocene period. So there are different time periods in which this particular Himalayan formation has happened. So all this is continuing. This is a continuous process. Upliftment of the Greater Himalayas in Oligo-Eocene period. So then the rivers that were flowing started depositing. Again, the Middle Himalayas also got uplifted. Then finally, the alluvial fans of the Greater and Middle Himalayas also got uplifted, and that's how Shivaliks have been formed. So today, this Indo-Gangetic plain that you see, the northern plains as we hear that, is one of the fresh landforms that have come into existence in India. So if you can understand, only after Himalayas have come that this northern plains have appeared, isn't it? So all these alluvial deposits, the landmass that you see here, they are of the most recent origin. If you want to look at the most oldest soil in Indian plate, you have to come to Dharwad Plateau. Similarly, if you want to find the latest formation of the soil, then you have to go to Indo-Gangetic region, because this is one of the recent formations. After the formation of the Himalayas, that is the Shivaliks, you will find Shivaliks itself was formed during the Pleistocene period. So after the formation of the Shivaliks, you find the formation of the northern plains. So in the late Pleistocene period, you will find the sediments of the Himalayan rivers forming the northern plains, right? So this part is what I could not explain yesterday because of the lack of slides. So I have done that. So yesterday we anyway studied this northern mountains. Now today we are supposed to discuss more about the northern plains. So again, let's have a quick slide view of what we have discussed yesterday. So the Himalayas itself has been divided into 3 regions: the Trans-Himalayas, the Himalayas, and the Purvanchal, right? The Trans-Himalayas, I have told you, were formed before Himalayas. That is, when the Tethys Sea got subducted, there were volcanic mountains called the Dras region. So it was that Dras region which basically today appear as the Trans-Himalayan region. The Karakoram range, the Ladakh range, the Zanskar range basically forms the Trans-Himalayan region. Then I've told you about this syntaxial bend, the northern past, the northeast, the northwest portion first colliding with the Asian plate, and then the southwest portion. So the Malda Gap will also be discussed later, right? So I've already explained the continental plate convergence, the formation of the Dras Island, the Karakoram range, the volcanic mountains, right? So all this we've already discussed. So we've discussed about how Himalayas have been uplifted, and then after the Himalayas, the Great Himalayas and Middle Himalayas were formed, we have understood how the rivers started depositing, how this deposits of the rivers further got uplifted in the form of Shivaliks, and how the lesser Himalayas or the outer Himalayas were formed. So the Shivaliks or outer Himalayas have been formed because of the upliftment of the alluvial deposits from the Himalayas, right? The recent mountains that have been formed are the Shivaliks, right? So we've also understood the important ranges in the Great Himalayan region, the Mount Everest, Kanchenjunga, Makalu, Dhaulagiri, Mansalu, etc. So then we also understood that the Middle Himalayan range is basically not a continuous range. See, we looked at important mountains like Pirpanjal, Dhauladhar, Nagtibba, Masori, Kumaon Hills, and Mahabharat range, right? So I told you this was we've discussed this. So the deposits of the Himalayas, this finally got uplifted. That's how you see Shivaliks. Shivaliks are mountains. These are foothills of the Himalayas, as we call the foothills of the Himalayas, the Greater Himalaya, the Middle Himalaya, and the Shivaliks, right? Then we've understood about the structure of Himalaya. I've told you in the Tibetan side it is very gently sloped, but in the Indian side it is steep slope. All that we've understood. So then I've also spoken about antecedent rivers. So what are antecedent rivers? So river is flowing in a narrow in a broad path, then it starts eroding it. It forms a valley kind of a formation and then starts flowing. So this is how. So initially it is flowing straight and then it starts eroding and forms a new path. It makes a valley out of such erosion. That is called an antecedent river. So most of the Himalayan rivers are antecedent rivers. Superimposed rivers are also similar. So they, due to their flow, the mountains appear to be superimposed, right? So I've also discussed about this collision, etc. Right. So let's quickly move forward. So we've also classified the Himalayas as Western Himalayas and Eastern Himalayas. So the divide between the Western and Eastern Himalayas is the Kali River, right? Kali River acts the divide between the Western and Eastern Himalayas. Important peaks in the Western Himalayas, the Great Himalayas, the Dhauladhar, Pilpanjal, Kumaon, and Masuri range. In the Eastern Himalayas, you will find Dudhwa, Muri, Churiya, Dafla, Abhor, Mishmi, right? So these are the important ranges in the eastern range. So after the Kali River, so somewhere here the Kali River flows. So from Kali to Brahmaputra, what you find, those mountains are called Eastern Himalayas, right? So then these are, this is your Trans-Himalayan region, the Karakoram range, the Ladakh range, the Zanskar range. Then you have the Greater Himalayas, Pir Panjal, Dhauladhar range. So again, in this side, this is your Great Himalayas. And then Mishmi, Abor, Dafla, Miri, right? Just above the Assam region, right? Here you can see the Brahmaputra river flowing. Again, we'll be discussing about rivers as well. So I'll explain about the Brahmaputra river when I discuss that. So Western Himalayas, they have a lower and gradual slope, but when it comes to Eastern Himalayas, it has a very high, slope, sudden slope, steep slope, right? The important peaks in the Western Himalayas, K2, Godwin Austen, Gasherbrum, Masherbrum, right? They are located on a higher latitude because the northwest region is in a latitude above the northeast region. So they are located on a higher latitude, about 30 about close to 30 degrees, north latitude, right? So they don't act as a barrier. So for northwest monsoon, so the northwest monsoon winds can actually pass through this particular range and cause rainfall. They don't stop. So whereas Eastern Himalayas, they act as a active barrier to the monsoon wind. So you know very well. So yesterday I was explaining, saying, it is this Himalayas, though they are located on lower latitude, they block the winds that blow during the southwest monsoon. So the southwest monsoon winds that escape the Western Ghats and move towards the northeast region. So there, these mountains, the high mountains, the steep mountains, like the Abhor, Mishmi, etc., they create a funneling effect. I've told you there is a very narrow path where the clouds have to, the air packets have to condense and rise. So due to the funneling effect, there is huge rainfall that is caused in this region. Chirapunji, Mawsynram, all this is located in this particular region. Why it witnesses so much rainfall is because, one, the monsoon winds carry enough water vapor. They've just gathered more water vapor from the Bay of Bengal, and when they are entering this region, there is tall mountains, funneling effect, orographic rainfall, and hence you have highest amount of rainfall. Okay, next, east to west division of Himalayas. So Indus to Sutlej, you have the Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Punjab region. Then Sutlej to Kali, you have the Kumaon Himalayas. Kali to Kosi, entire things falls in the Nepal region. So that's where you have Nepal Himalayas. Then Kosi to Tista River, you have Sikkim Himalayas. And Tista to Dihang River, you will find Assam Himalayas. So we can also classify Himalayas as Kashmir and Punjab Himalayas, Kumaon Himalayas, Nepal Himalayas, Sikkim Himalayas, and Assam Himalayas, right? This is east-west division of Himalayas. So let us look at Kashmir, Punjab, Himalayas. So important peaks here, Karakoram, Ladakh, Zaskar, Pir Panjal, Dhauladar range. So you can see the location. Please do look at the maps as and when I am showing them on the slides. It is very, very essential. You know, in competitive exam, simple kind of question that can be asked. They will give you 4 or 5 mountains and ask you to arrange it in ascending to descending order. First of all, first time life so adral ascending to descending and you will choose the most appropriate wrong answer. So adagbardu antandre ee maps kade solpa gamana harisi, right? So Karakoram range, Ladakh range, Zaskar range, they form a part of Trans Himalayas. ಹಿಮಾಲಯಗಳಿಗಿಂತ ಮೊದಲು ಈ ಒಂದು ಪರ್ವತ ಶ್ರೇಣಿಗಳ ಬೆಳವಣಿಗೆ ಆಗಿರುವಂತದ್ದು. Then you find the greater Himalayas, and then middle Himalayas you have the Pir Panjal and the Dhauladar range. So all of you would have heard of Zojila Pass. Zojila Pass is in this particular region of the greater Himalayas. So what is a pass? A pass is basically a narrow, low-lying area between the mountains where human beings can travel from one place to another. So imagine moving from one mountain region to one place to another in such mountainous region will be very difficult. Wherever you find a small low-lying area, that can be made as a road, and that is why it is called a pass. Now we know what we call as ghat in in the Western Ghats. You have so many types of ghats, right? Charmudi Ghat, Shiradi Ghat, right? So they're all again passes through which you can pass through the mountain from one place to another. So similarly, you find Zojila Pass. Zojila Pass connects Kashmir to Ladakh region. Is that understood? So Zojila Pass connects Kashmir to Ladakh region. So in this particular place, what do you find? Of course, there is continuous erosion of these mountains by the rivers. So you will find valleys, you will find dunes and lakes. What is a dune? This is a flat land that is created in such areas, right? So sometimes even the most of these places are snow-capped places. So in the summer times, when the snow melts, there is a lake, and in the winter times, it is completely occupied by snow. So sometimes when there is no snow, it appears like a depression in this particular place. Ivattu Bengaluru ಕೆರೆಗಳಿತ್ತು ಒಂದಾನೊಂದು ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ. ಕೆರೆ ಖಾಲಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತಂದಾಗ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮನೆ ಕಟ್ಟಿದ್ವಿ, ಅಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕಟ್ಟಿದ್ವಿ. ಅದೇ ತರ in these kinds of places where there was the snow which used to become water and fill a lake, when this lake was unfilled by snow, people started building cities. Those places are called dunes. All of you have heard Dehradun. So Dehradun is basically a dune where once upon a time it was a lake, but today it is a city. Anyways, not very surprising for people like us, right? Anyways, Kumaon Himalayas, right? I told you first what are the different classifications. Kashmir Himalayas, Kumaon Himalayas, and then the Nepal Himalayas, and then the Sikkim Himalayas, and then the Assam Himalayas. So we just looked at the Kashmir Himalayas. Now let's look at Kumaon Himalayas. Kumaon Himalayas, again you have greater Himalayas on the north. So of course the Trans-Himalayans are over, right? This is to the south of Himachal Pradesh, Haryana region. So here you find the Mussoorie, the Dehradun, right? This particular region. So here is the greater Himalayas and here is the Shivaliks. So in between you have the middle Himalayas. This is where you have the Garhwal range and the Kumaon range, right? So important cities that you will find near Garhwal region is Srinagar, right? You find Rishikesh, Haridwar, Kedarnath, Uttarkashi. All these are the Kedarnath, Uttarkashi region, Badrinath region, Joshimath region. All these are located in the region between the middle Himalayas and the greater Himalayas, right? So important peaks in the greater Himalayas here are Nanda Devi, Kamet, Badrinath, Kedarnath, Gangotri. These are some of the important places. The source of the river Ganga and Yamuna is in this particular region, right? And important lakes, right, are Nainital Lake and Bhimtal Lake. Tal basically means, a lake, right? So the word Tal in, the Kashmiri language actually means lake. So Nainital, Bhimtal, they are some of the important lakes in this particular region. Next, let's look at the Nepal Himalayas. I've already told you the greater Himalayas, the important peaks, the tallest peaks you will find is in this Nepal region. So you have the greater Himalayas, you have Dhaulagiri, Annapurna, Mansalu, Makalu, Mount Everest located in this particular region. Just next to that, the middle Himalayas, Dudhwa, Muri, Churia, and other mountain ranges which are located in this particular region. So Dhaulagiri, Annapurna, Mansalu, Mount Everest, all these form the part of greatest Himalayas, greater Himalayas. This is the tallest section of the Himalayan region, right? If you look at the greater Himalayas above the Pir Panjal range, they are not very tall, right? The region in this particular region, the Nepal region, are the tallest region. So here of course, the difference between the narrow gap between the Mount Everest and the northern plains, what you find is called the Kathmandu Valley. So Kathmandu Valley is located in the valleys of the greater Himalayas. So immediately after Kathmandu, you will find the plains, the northern plains. So you can see here the Gandak river is flowing, Kali river is flowing, Karnali river is flowing here. So Kali, Karnali, Gandak, all these will join which river? Later on, Kosi River. Kosi River, all of you know, is called as Sorrow of Bihar. Why is it called Sorrow of Bihar? Just imagine Kosi River, which is emerging from tall mountains like Great Himalayas, all of a sudden comes down and finds Bihar, northern plains. It is flowing from a great steep and then sudden plains. It starts depositing so much of deposits. It keeps changing its path. So when Kosi River is flowing, it is not flowing in one direction. Because it flows so fast, it carries so much of deposits. It puts those deposits in the path of the river. So it is unable to flow. It will change the direction. So Kosi River keeps changing its direction. ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಮನೆ ಕಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀರಾ, ಕೋಸಿ ನದಿಗೆ ಏನ್ ಗೊತ್ತು, ಹರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ you will call this as Sorrow of Bihar. None of the mistake of Kosi River. Anyways, right? So that's the Nepal region. Then the Sikkim Himalayas. So this is the Sikkim region, right? So here is West Bengal and here is Sikkim. To the left you have Nepal, to the right and the north you have China. So here you can see there is Jilepla Pass, right? Jilepla Pass basically connects. It is in the tri-junction of India, China and Bhutan. Very important place, right? China is always trying to occupy more places from India. So with respect to that, Jilepla is a very important place for both India and China. So Sikkim is here. Bhutan is a very small place, an independent country here. The best, all of you must look at the geography of Bhutan, located on the foothills of the Himalayas. Beautiful place to live in, right? Anyways, Sikkim is located close to Bhutan, tri-junction of India, China and Bhutan. Right? Jilepla Pass is located there. So you have Teesta River. Can you see this river? So this river is the Teesta River. The Teesta River will later join the Brahmaputra River. So this Teesta River originates from Kanchenjunga. Kanchenjunga is located in the border of Nepal and Sikkim. Is that understood? So important peak in this particular region is Kanchenjunga. Then the Assam Himalayas, again Assam Himalayas, they are very narrow, range of mountains. So this is where the Himalayas come to an end. So the lesser Himalayas are very close to, the middle Himalayas are very close to the greater Himalayas here. So if you looked at the North Indian region, because of the syntaxial bend, what has happened? There is a gap between the greater Himalayas and the middle Himalayas. But look at Assam Himalayas, there is not much of gap. Greater Himalayas are here, and then here you have the middle Himalayas, that is Mishmi, Abor, Miri, and Tafla. Right here you find Diffu Pass. Diffu Pass is basically again located in the tri-junction of India, China, and Myanmar. So here there is Myanmar, here is China, here is China, right? So it is located in the tri-junction of India, Myanmar, and China, Diffu Pass, right? So important peaks in this particular region, the Greater Himalayas, you have Namchat, Barwa, Kula Kangri, right? These are some of the important peaks. So on the middle Himalayas, you know, Miri, Abhor, Mishmi, and Dafla, right? So what are dunes, right? Explaining the same thing. So look here. So there is a depression area. So the river forms a lake here, and from this lake, sometimes the rivers originate, right? So you all know Manasarovar is also a lake which is located in the top of the Himalaya. So similarly, there are many lakes that you will find. So when a river is blocked initially by a mountain, then it spreads out and forms a lake. So imagine there is a, if there is a path for it to travel, then it will go and become a river. But if there is no path, then when it is blocked, it becomes a lake. So when the lake is dried, so lakes dry out when there is no river. So because it finds the weak rocks to cut across the mountain. So sometimes either it finds a way out and flows as a river, and then it becomes a dry lake, right? Between the great and the middle Himalayas, you will find such lakes. Today they have dried. Now we have built cities like Dehradun, right? Dehradun is located between Shivaliks and the Mussoorie range. So I already explained the dune formation with that basically region. Okay, then you will find some important term called karevas. What are karevas? Karevas are basically flat top terraces, especially look at the Kashmir region. So in the Kashmir region, there are flat lands, amidst this Himalayas, which are very, very fertile because there is a lot of deposits that you will find. This karevas are found in the Pir Panjal range, the middle Himalayan ranges, right? So here you find the Indus rivers, flowing close by. So you have the Spiti Zaskar range also located here. So here there is sand. This sand is made up of clay, right? The sand which has some, alluvial deposits. Basically, when a river is flowing, it starts depositing in multiple regions. We call it as fans, alluvial fans. So you find such alluvial fans located here along with clay. Very, very fertile region. So karevas are very important for cultivation of saffron. So you all know Kashmir is known for saffron cultivation because of the kareva soil. Kareva soil is, the fresh alluvial soil which has, the best mixture of clay and sand along with the deposit, along with the erosion of the mountain region. So that is a fertile land, and that's where we have the Kashmirians growing the saffron. Right? Why is Himalaya very, very important? Imagine, let me take you back to the picture where the Himalayan mountains were shown in. Yes. So can you see this part of the earth? So here you can see the Himalayas, the big mountains, right? Okay, I believe this is now better visible. So here you can see Himalayan range, one of the important mountain ranges, very tall mountain range. So this part is the temperate region. So this part is basically close to the North Pole. You have the temperate region. You have the cold air mass moving from polar region to temperate region. So if you look at this particular place, here is the Manchurian basin. So you have Gobi Desert, you have Taklamakan Desert in this particular region. So these are dry deserts. Dry deserts not because there is warmth. It is not like Thar Desert. They are cold deserts. Why cold deserts? Because of the cold air mass that flows here. So imagine there was no Himalayas, cold air mass would have entered India as well. Because of the presence of the Himalayas, this cold air from the polar region is unable to reach India, and that has created the best tropical region for our country. Is that understood? So the contribution of Himalayas is that it doesn't allow the cold air to reach India. Let me take you back to the slide. Yes, right. So importance prevents the cold Siberian winds to enter into India. If there was no Himalayas, we would have had cold winds, and the presence of cold winds would have been very damaging to the agricultural crops. Just imagine the Indo-Gangetic plain where it is one of the most fertile region. So every time look at river valleys, they are very, very important. The first forms of civilization, talk about Indus Valley civilization, the Vedic civilization in India, or talk about any civilization, Egyptian civilization, Mesopotamian civilization, Chinese civilization, all civilizations have flourished in the river banks. Egyptian civilization flourished on the Nile River. Mesopotamian civilization flourished on, there are two important rivers there on which the Mesopotamian civilization flourished. Unable to recall Euphrates and Tigris River. So similarly, you have Yangtze and Honghe River on which the Chinese civilization has flourished, right? So there are very important. The world's 30% of the population is located on 10% of the land, and those lands are river valleys. I'm talking about the world, not India. India itself has 16% of population and 2.6% of the world's geographical area. So we are the most densely populated, and which is the largest populated country. We have always been saying China, no more China, India tops it. So India, with more than 144 crore population, is one of the largest populated country in the world. Chinese population has gone down. We have defeated China, at least in population. So, India is the largest populated country in the world. So I know all of you would have studied China is the largest populated country. Now China has lost that status, right? So, okay, anyways, prevents the Siberian winds to enter India. Then no Himalayas means there would have been no Tibet. No Tibet means no rainfall in India. India would have been a desert. Now, why this? I will explain you while explaining monsoons, but I remember while talking about temporary jet stream, I spoke about, the Himalayan mountains and the Tibetan plateau. Tibetan plateau is already in the peak, right? Because of the upliftment of the Himalayas, right? Now, if Tibetan plateau witnesses summer, there is what, again, I told you that the intertropical convergence zone shifts from the southern hemisphere to northern hemisphere. When the intertropical convergence zone shifts towards the north, what happens? It is actually located on the Tibet. So there is low pressure area on Tibet. There is heating. So Tibetan plateau, there is a lot of air mass that is rising. It goes till the troposphere and then tries to go towards the poles. It goes till the Mascarene High Basin, which is located close to the Somalian region of Africa. And then there, again, because of Coriolis force deflection, it loses energy. The air packets become dense, starts descending. The place where it descends is called the Mascarene High Basin. And then from the surface, on the surface of the earth, it again starts moving towards the low pressure area, that is towards India. And that is how our southwest monsoons are possible. That is what is called the, subtropical western western jet streams. So they are divided into two branches. Even this Mascarene High Basin, there is a small cell that gets created. That is the air is moving from the Mascarene High Basin to India. So this is called the southwest monsoon. Southwest monsoon is because there is Tibet. If there were no Himalayas, Tibet wouldn't have been in the peak. If Tibet was not in the peak, then there wouldn't have been a low pressure area there. Air wouldn't have come to Mascarene High Basin. If there is no air moving to Mascarene High Basin, there is no southwest monsoon. Simple. So India would have been a desert if there was no Himalayas, right? Can you connect? So sometimes I keep telling. So now that the monsoon is going to begin, some of you will catch cold. There will be mucus in your nose. So I always, joke people saying, do you know the mucus in your nose has a connection to Somalia? How is that connected is the question that ordinary common man thinks. But understand, it is because of this. If there was no Himalayas, if there was no Mascarene high bases, there wouldn't have been no rainfall. And if there was no rainfall, you wouldn't have got cold, right? So the mucus in your nose has a connection to Somalia, right? This is how connections start cropping up. Anyways, right? So no Himalayas, no Tibet, no rainfall, no India, as in India would have been a desert. Then Himalayas split the subtropical westerly jets into two branches, which causes the winter rain. So the north, when the intertropical convergence will shift towards the south, so the westerly jets that are flowing are broken into two parts in the Himalayas. One of the branch moves from the Arabian Sea, hits the coast, and that is what we call as the northeast monsoons. So it is because of the northeast monsoon that the eastern coast is able to have the winter rainfall. The source of the Himalayas are source of the perennial rivers, Ganga, Brahmaputra, Indus, most important rivers. If there was no Himalayas, there would have been no Ganga, no Indus, no Brahmaputra. That means there would have been no, fertile river plains and no agriculture. India would have been a barren land. Then, of course, forest wealth. You all know Himalayas have great national parks. They have very rich biodiversity. Himalayas are located in which region? Tropical region. So if you are on the foothills of the Himalayas, you will find tropical evergreen forests. Move up the Himalayas, you will find tropical deciduous forests. Move further up the Himalayas, you will find coniferous forests. Move further up the Himalayas to the peaks of the Himalayas, you will find tundra forest. All types of forest, whatever types of geographical vegetation that you find in the world, you will find sample of them in Himalayas, right? So best medicinal plants are available there. So many resources are available in Himalayas. It is very essential for us to protect this particular region. We have recognized Himalayas and the Western Ghats as biodiversity hotspots. Anyways, next, minerals. Of course, there are a lot of minerals that are also available. It could be coal. Anthracite coal is available in Kalakot. Nickel, copper, lead, zinc, gold, silver, name it and you have it, because this is a uplifted region. So the continental crust is broken and uplifted. So you can extract minerals very easily from this particular region. But again, right now we can't, of course, extract minerals because one, we don't have that technology, plus it will affect the climate. It will have adverse conditions. Imagine we start mining in Himalayas. You must allow DK Kumar to go to Himalayas, then you will not find Himalayas at all, right? So that's the danger. So we don't want to risk that. So we are not doing any mining in the Himalayas. Anyways, okay. So no offense, if there is anybody related to DK Kumar, please go tell him, that I've made this statement, but with no offense. Anyways, Trans-Himalayas. Immediately north of the Greater Himalayas, you find the Trans-Himalayas. I've told you the Karakoram, Ladakh, Zanskar range. So I've told you these are formed even before the Himalayas. They were once upon a time volcanic mountains because the Tethys Sea got subducted. It came out as volcano. But today, no ocean, no volcano, and they appear just like a mountain. Their elevation is up to 3,000 meters. Now, how come 8,000 meters in Great Himalayas, 3,000 meters here? This is because these mountains were formed before Himalayas. By the time Himalayas have grown 8,000 meters, these mountains have been eroded, and that's how their height has reduced over a period of time. If Himalayas can grow so long, of course, even the mountains that were taller than that have also been eroded, and today their height is very less. So under the Karakoram range, you find K2, Gasherbrum. Ladakh range, you find Rakaposhi. Kailash range, all this Kailash Manas Sarovar region is in this particular range. Nanga Parvat, which is in Zanskar range, all these are found important mountains that are found here. So the Karakoram range is the home for the greatest glaciers of the world outside the polar region. So if you don't find ice caps in Arctic region, Antarctic region. The only other place where you can find so much of ice caps is in this particular region, which is the Karakoram range. You know about the Siachen glaciers, the Baltora, the Baifo, the Hispar glaciers. All these are important places where, a person in Siachen glacier, what's the temperature? Average temperature is minus 32 degrees Celsius. You must also understand, if an army fellow spends 5 years in such regions where temperature is minus 35 degrees, it's as though their organs have to keep that heat. We are all thermostatic bodies, right? We have to maintain the requisite temperature within our body. So for that, lot of consumption of energy, lot of usage of the organs is done. Army fellow's lifespan reduces by 1 month if he's staying by 5 years, right? So that's the average number. Sometimes it's even said up to 6 months. If you stay in this particular place for 5 years, your lifespan reduces by 6 months. No, that's the kind of region. This is very, very, cold region in the Indian place. Then it is also a watershed between India and Turkmenistan. So it is this range differentiate, basically creates a barrier between India and Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan is just located above Afghanistan. Okay, if you have world map, please look at it. Then you have Deosai Mountains, which is part of the Ladakh range. So this is the Ladakh range. So there is a Deosai Mountains, which are part of Ladakh range. So Indus River. So Indus River has a tributary called Suru River. Now, understand, if a river is flowing like this, tributary will also join the path of the river like this. So river is flowing like this, tributary will join the path of the river in the same direction. If the river is flowing like this, but tributary is coming in the opposite direction and joining it, then it is called an obsequent river. Suru River is one such obsequent river, an example of a tributary which is flowing in the opposite direction. So can you see here, this is Indus River. So Indus River has some tributaries like Shok River and Suru River. Shok River, again, you must also know, we call tributary, we try to categorize tributaries into left bank tributaries and right bank tributaries. So how do you classify? So you have to take from the origin, not left and right of your side. You have to look at where is the river originating and where is it flowing. For example, for Indus River, it is originating in the Himalayas and it is flowing in this direction. So Shok River is a right bank tributary. Suru River is a left bank tributary. But look at it from Ganga River. Ganga is flowing in this direction towards the West Bengal region. So any rivers that like Kosi, Karnali, Kali, all these are rivers which are joining from the left side of it, because the mouth is towards the Himalaya. Sorry, the source is towards the Himalayas, the mouth is towards the West Bengal, the river is flowing in this direction. So all rivers that join from the left are left bank tributaries. All rivers that join Ganga from the right are called right bank tributaries. So if you have to decide, stand in the source, look at the mouth, and then you will go know which side is left bank and right bank tributary. So here you have Shok River, which is a right bank tributary, Suru River, which is another tributary of India's left bank tributary, obsequent tributary because it is flowing in the opposite direction of the main river. So then you have the Kailas range. The Kailas range is located in this Ladakh range, right? Then you have the Indus River, which is passing through this Ladakh and Zanskar ranges. So this is Zanskar range, Pir Panjal range. This is Ladakh range. So in between this two mountains, you have the Ladakh, the Indus River flowing. So Indus flows like this, goes like this, and then it enters Kashmir. It enters Kashmir near the Gilgit region. Okay, so the Purvanchal, that is the Assam Himalayas, you have Patkai Bum, the Naga Hills, the Mizo Hills. So these are the eastern Himalayas to the end of the near the Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Mizoram. That's where you will find these hills. They have also originated same like that of the Himalayas. So, but their elevation is less. If you come to Mizo Hills to the south, their elevation is very less when compared to the northern hills. You also have Khasi, Garo, Jayantia hills. These are all hilly areas where most of the tribal population are located even today, right? So Naga hills, Manipuri hills, Mizo hills. So most of these hills are named after their tribes. Garo Hills, Kasi Hills, Jayantia Hills, Naga Hills, Mizo Hills. These are all Kasi, Garo, Jayantia, Naga, Mizo. They're all tribes. So these mountains have also been named after their tribes, right? Okay. Some of the important details. Patkai basically forms the border between Arunachal Pradesh and Myanmar. Naga Hills, highest peak in Naga Hills is Mount Sharamati. So this is a watershed between India and Myanmar. That is, if you look at the Brahmaputra river, so the river of the Brahmaputra river, including the Lohit, Dihang, Dibang, all these are tributaries of Brahmaputra. All that does flow towards the left side of this particular peak called the Naga Hills belong to India. Any river that flows to the right of the Naga Hills belong to Myanmar. So it is called the water divide, right? Then Manipuri Hills, the border between Manipur and Myanmar, again source of the river Manipuri, also source of the river, tributary of Manipuri, tributary called Chindwin River, right? Chindwin River is basically originating in Myanmar and joining Manipuri River in India. Then Mizo Hills, you have Blue Mountain, which is the highest peak in the Mizo Hills, right? Next, so this is the Purvanchal region. So in the Purvanchal region, you have this here you have this region is called the Arakan Yoma region. So the Arakan Yoma region are basically the mountain, the Purvanchal, the Arakan Yoma, and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. All of them have they're all part of the same continuous mountain range, right? So Purvanchal continues in Myanmar. In Myanmar, it is called as Arakan Yoma, and then in India, here, this region, it is called Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So Andaman and Nicobar Islands are extension of this Purvanchal region. Is that understood? So that completes northern mountains. You have any questions, please feel free to ask. So I've discussed about the geography of India. I've discussed in detail about the northern mountains, the Himalayas, the greater Himalayas, the trans Himalayas, the Purvanchal, important peaks located, right? I hope all that I've explained has been understood. Any questions, please feel free to ask. Next, I'll continue to northern plains, peninsular plateau, coastal plains. I'm discussing Indian geography to a lot detail, right? So if you can understand the geography to the extent that I'm covering, you can write any competitive exam without, further classes or preparation. I'm dealing with, so most of you after my classes will know so much of geography that even a master's graduate in geography will not know. Basically, as I've just mentioned, if you have to understand one subject correctly, completely, comprehensively, then you must have that overall knowledge. Otherwise, you will never be able to understand. As I said, ekam cha tatvato gnatum tasmat sarvatra jignaset. Any questions? I'm just waiting for the questions. I would want to, I don't want to start northern plains at this juncture, right? If you have any questions, we will take. Otherwise, again, northern plains, I don't want to, start and stop in between. So I want to take that as one particular entire session. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask. We can have some discussion before we wind up the session. Any questions? So everybody who is understanding, please share a thumbs up so that I know that you are understanding, you understood today's session as well. How many of you are reading? If you are reading, raise your hand. If you're revising everything that is being, discussed, please let me know. I need your responses. Okay, only one thumbs up. Come on here. I'm literally, I don't know whether you people are, around me or not. But I know my, teachers have this habit. They scream to the top of their voice while they teach. So I'm doing that, and I only get one or two thumbs up. That's all. Okay. Oh, okay. more. There are more people online. Ah, finally, great. So going good. So please do read, revise, right? I would say please pick up NCERT books on Indian geography, class 6 to class 12. If you can go through NCERT, more than sufficient. You'll find PDFs of them also available. If you can read, understand that text, right? If you can understand geography there, you've understood geography more than sufficient. And I'm sure you're all making notes while you are listening to this lecture, right? So whatever you have now, this should be more than sufficient. So if there are any questions, please ask. If there are no questions, mention no questions. I would prefer to wind up the session for now, because I don't want to start with a fresh topic when there is 10 minutes time left. We spent almost 2 classes just on the geographical features on the northern mountain, so that shows the importance of it. So anyways, so no questions, please ping no questions so that we can wind up the session. You'll get that today, you'll get 10 minutes extra break. I've always been taking extra time from your end, 5 minutes extra I was stretching. So today I'll give you 10 minutes extra break. No questions, fine, thank you. We'll wind up the session now.